All right, I think we're ready to roll.
You're listening to Words Like That with Cole Powell, a storyteller podcast.
All right, folks, I'm Cole Powell. This is Words Like That, and I just got back from seeing Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. This is the new Bruce Springsteen biopic starring Jeremy Allen White. Been really excited about this one since I first saw the trailer. Big Bruce Springsteen fan. I've liked what I've seen from Jeremy Allen White in the first season of The Bear. Short version of the review. I thought it was a really good film. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was great. And this is basically the same review I gave for the Bob Dylan, Timothy Chalamet biopic from last year, but I don't think that the Springsteen movie even gets to that level. Before we get into the full review, be sure to check out my new album, The Social Distance. This is an Americana album in the country folk rock range. It has hit the top 20 of the iTunes US singer-songwriter chart. The lead single and video, Outlive My Life, has gotten 3 nominations at the Josie Music Awards in Nashville, be held at the Grand Ole Opry in a couple of weeks. I've got a new video coming out on this. I think it's the best album that I've done. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please go check that out wherever you get your music.
Keep drinking your whiskey, 'cause this song ain't for me.
So, background on me and Bruce Springsteen. I grew up oldies, classic rock. Never really got into Springsteen, though, until a few years ago when I started making music reaction videos for YouTube. And I ended up taking a deep dive into Springsteen's catalog. I've listened to all of his studio albums. I'm currently going through the newly released box set Tracks to the Lost Albums. It has 7 never before released Bruce Springsteen albums on there. I've checked out most, I don't think all, but most of the big Springsteen concerts, also several documentaries. I'm still going to continue to look at those. And quick plug here, if you want to see the reactions to all that stuff, it's on the Randomine Records Patreon. $2 will get you a month access, and you can watch all that in that time period. Go consider checking that out. So when they announced this movie and I checked the trailer out, I was really excited about this. And I'm just going to go through the notes I made in the theater while I was watching this here. First of all, it was well shot, well directed by Scott Cooper. I'd seen a couple of movies that Scott Cooper had done before this. Scott Cooper did a great job here, writing and directing. He wrote and directed this one. It's told in a non-linear format, which I really like as a narrative device. It's set in the 50s when Bruce is a kid, and also in 1981, right after he got through with the Big The River tour, and the record company is wanting a new record. And I feel like they nailed the period setting as much as we saw of it anyway. They didn't really dwell on it. It was a lot of just Bruce alone, because that's kind of what the story was. So we didn't really get to see the period in depth to really get that feel, and Scott Cooper using that to its full effect. Certainly not as much as we got in A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie I mentioned earlier. And I get it, though, because the farther away we get from a period, the harder it is to film on location and dress the sets up for that period, or you have to build sets to match that period. So I get it, but overall it worked fine for what they did with it. The story of Bruce's father, which is the main non-music plot line through this movie, that Bruce is dealing with his childhood, with his relationship with his father and his current relationship with his father. It was excellent. It was gripping. Stephen Graham, who played Bruce's dad in this, was fantastic. He was a standout performer in this movie. And they really just captured the overall feel of that generation. I don't know what it was about that generation. The parents of the boomers, this would have been some of the silent generation and whatever the generation before that, was called, but there were a lot of fathers of that generation that had some issues. Were going through things themselves and made it really hard for their kids and made their kids go through some hard stuff as they got older. And I was talking to somebody who was born at the beginning of the boomer generation, the late 40s. And he told me how great it was growing up in the 50s. And he said it was just like Leave It to Beaver. He said everything was just so happy, and the kids, you could just go walk around the street and not have to worry about anybody messing with you and go have fun. So it was just like Leave It to Beaver, except his dad was a deadbeat alcoholic. Other than that, though, it was just like Leave It to Beaver. So this is a story that we've seen, we've heard, because it happened a lot during that period, and they really nailed this. I feel like capturing that archetype. And I don't know what it was about that generation. I don't know if it was World War II, the Depression, or what, but there was something there, and they nailed this with Bruce's dad and his relationship with his dad growing up in the 50s. On the cast, Jeremy Strong was incredible as John Landau, which is Bruce's manager. And I really think that if anybody gets an Oscar nomination out of this, it's going to be Jeremy Strong for Best Supporting Actor. As far as Jeremy Allen White, again, I really like what I've seen of him. I only watched him in the first season of The Bear. I haven't seen him really in anything else that I can think of, but what I saw of him in The Bear was just phenomenal. I was really looking forward to him tackling this, even though I was a little hesitant on his look, his physicality, and his ability to impersonate Bruce. The trailer looked like he was doing a pretty good job, and he does a pretty good job here. There are a few times where his mannerisms and his voice sounds just like Bruce, his speaking voice anyway. As far as the singing, originally it was reported that he was going to be doing all the singing. It was conflicting reports I saw. Some people were saying, oh, he's going to be doing all the singing. The other people were like, no, he's only going to do some of it. And it sounded to me like in the trailer, like I didn't hear any Jeremy Allen White in the trailer. All I heard was Bruce. In the movie, what it sounded like to me was he sang pieces of Mansion on a Hill, or Piece of Mansion on a Hill, pieces of My Father's House, maybe part of the recording, or maybe the entire vocal on the record of Born in the USA, because that did not sound like a Bruce, the released Bruce track, although it could have been an unreleased take or a take that I hadn't heard. But other than that, it was Bruce singing throughout the entire movie. The big issue for me, and I think I may have just seen too many Bruce interviews and heard him talking in live shows. Overall, I didn't feel like that Jeremy Allen White really embodied Bruce, at least not like Jamie Foxx embodied Ray Charles and Ray, or again, I keep going back to The Complete Unknown, Timothy Chalamet, because that's a fresh musical biopic, and it was really, really good. But I just don't feel like that Jeremy Allen White got up to that caliber. But I also could just know Bruce too well. I'm probably being a little unfair here on Jeremy Allen White's performance on this. But it was, a lot of times it was just like, okay, we're watching Jeremy Allen White do a decent Bruce impersonation. And Jeremy Allen White also looks a lot like Dustin Hoffman to me, so there were actually times where I thought I'm actually watching Dustin Hoffman do a Bruce Springsteen impersonation. But again, I'm probably being unfair, and I'm probably just seeing too much of Bruce interviews and concerts to really give a fair assessment and give a fair shake to Jeremy Allen White here. Probably being a little nitpicky here, a little pedantic, but overall, he did fine, and I think most people seeing this who haven't seen as much Bruce as I have, they won't have a problem. I think he did a good job. The third act of the movie ran a little long. There were essentially two climaxes, and there was a good bit of length between them. One was, the first climax was the wrapping up all the music stuff, which for me was the most interesting thing of the movie. And they wrapped that up, and that felt like that's the climax to the picture, but they had not wrapped up Bruce's personal stuff yet. So then they take a good chunk of time to wrap up Bruce's personal stuff, and it just felt disconnected. I feel like if Scott Cooper could have written this in such a way, of course, I'm sure he would have had to change more about the story than they did, because there were some creative liberties here. For instance, Bruce had a girlfriend in the movie who doesn't exist in real life, and she was an amalgam of a couple of different girlfriends I read. And there's one that he had during the production of Nebraska that he's never revealed her name, and I guess she was supposed to be kind of an inspiration for this character, but it took some liberties, and they probably would have had taken some more in order to make both climaxes kind of line up, or maybe shorten the distance between the two. But it just made the third act run a little long. It wasn't as satisfying with those two climaxes, the two story threads, the music and the personal being separated that much in their resolution. And also, when we finally get to the second climax, when Bruce's personal problems are resolved, the movie basically ends. There's literally like maybe 3 minutes of movie left after the second climax, and it just felt really abrupt after all that long third act. But the final scene, is a little bit of spoiler alert, is between Bruce and his dad in the present in 1982 by this time. Really, really well done. Wraps up Bruce's emotional story nicely. So where does this stack up with other musical biopics? I don't think it reaches the gold standard of Ray and Walk the Line. I feel like those are like the two best musical biopics that I've seen anyway. I'm sure there are some out there that I haven't seen. Love and Mercy, I would put probably a little bit under that. It doesn't get to that level. Then probably A Complete Unknown. It doesn't quite get there. But it is really good. Objective rating, I would give this a 7 out of 10, which is nothing to sneeze at. Really good rating. Personal enjoyment, I actually enjoyed it a little bit better than I think the quality of the film is. I'd give personal enjoyment rating 8 out of 10, because this is my kind of movie. I'm a Bruce Springsteen fan. I like this kind of musical history, musical biopic film. And that's why I'm not sure how well this is going to play with non-musical biopic, non-Springsteen fans, because it's very much about the music. A lot of the stakes are tied into the music and the production of it. And you get to see Bruce sitting in this rented house alone, or he's got sometimes he's alone, sometimes he's got a guy there recording the demos. He's recording this acoustic demo. For me, that's just like, oh yeah, I love to see this. Is so good. I don't know if that's a big enough hook for the average moviegoer. And I don't know if really anything in this is a hook for the average moviegoer, because if you're a casual Springsteen fan, you get Born in the USA, a couple of other big ones that they play. It starts out he's in and on Born to Run, but there's not much in there if you're not deep into his catalog or really care about him personally. Whereas going back to Complete Unknown, there was a draw of Timothée Chalamet, who has a large, young crowd following. And then inside the movie, you've got the love triangle that can really keep people hooked, generate positive word of mouth. There's not that much in here to reach beyond the music people and Bruce fans like me. So if you are like me, if you do like Springsteen, if you do like musical biopics, particularly if you're getting into the minutia and the inside baseball aspect of the industry and creating music and making records, definitely go see this in theaters. If that's not you, I'm not sure if this is going to be worth your time to go out of the house and see. But if you've seen the movie, let us know in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube or some platform that allows comments, this is going to be on some podcast and audio only that's just not going to let you comment. But if you're watching this on a platform that allows comments, let us know what you thought of the movie, if you've seen it, or if you're planning to see it, if it sounds like something that's appealing to you. Drop us a line in the comments. And that's going to wrap up this episode. If you're a Bruce Springsteen fan and you want to check out my reactions to Bruce over the last 3 years, again, you can go check that out on Patreon. I'll have some more coming up. I'll try to get at least one big long-form reaction to Bruce out a month. Subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and we'll see you next time.
Can't have no words like that. Theme, Words Like That by Cole Powell. Lead in by Ryan Purser. From Wicked Woman by Four Way Stop. Original cover photo by Kelly Bagwell. Recorded at Randomine Records. Section 107 of U.S. copyright law allows for the fair use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, or research.